Hey there everybody, this is Cholera, I'm joined with Clazzert, and we're going to be doing a game between Anytime and NC Yellow, Real Yellow, both on Air Force Ace now. Two players who've been greats in their time. Anytime a little more recently, winning a OSL, and managed to beat a lot of great players back, I think it was in '06 or '05. That was really his peak. NC Yellow, you could say he's been peaking and almost peaking since the beginning of StarCraft, pretty much. He has been famous since 2000, believe it or not, even earlier than Boxer. Actually, Boxer made somewhat of a name of himself, beating NC Yellow, and NC Yellow is still kicking. He's still playing and still beating some very impressive players once in a while, like Bisu, of course, in that game that about 67 people commentated on YouTube. All of us did, and it was amazing. But anyway, I'm hoping for a good PvZ here. Both old school players, and of course I've done one commentary of both of them. You can check it out in Cholera SC, where Anytime pulled a pimpus play in like 2005 or 6 by going only DTs against NC Yellow, winning off of one base, 2 gates, straight up DT rush, killing all the drones. I mean, killing all the Lings, then killing Hydras, then killing drones. No Corsairs or anything. So a weird build against NC Yellow. We'll see if NC Yellow does something odd in this game and what happens.
Yeah, you know, a lot of the fans actually don't know this, but NC Yellow is actually the guy who got me into Pro StarCraft. He was the first player that I was a fan of as a StarCraft viewer. Most people think that Savior is my favorite player, but NC Yellow is actually the player who's actually closest to my heart and who made me a Zerg fan to begin with. Anytime just starting up. This is on Outsider, and we've got Anytime at the 6 o'clock position in white and NC Yellow in red at the 9 o'clock position. But yeah, Yellow is, I'm a huge fan of Yellow. He's the guy that I have a huge soft spot for, and you know, he's kind of like the David who can't beat Goliath for me, because he went up in all those games against Boxer and just about fell short. And as much as I am a fan of Boxer, NC Yellow is definitely my favorite player, and I like nothing better than watching him do well when he does, and I really enjoy it. I just feel he's got so much potential, but that he's never really lived up to his true potential.
Yeah, I think that's, you know, he's the king of silver. Actually, Clazzard, can you do me a favor and just read me your timestamp right now? I think I may have missynced a little bit due to the internet fluctuations.
Okay, I don't have a timestamp right now on my screen for some reason on the eStars thing. My video timestamp is 6:33, 6:34.
Okay, okay, great. So I will get to the right position, and yeah, I mean, looks like we're gonna have, just some shots of the audience here. Outsider is a map where I think it could end up being a pretty long game between a Protoss and a Zerg. Usually against with Terrans and Protosses, they generally like to go for drops, but you know, here with the Zerg player, there's options for both air and ground. I think if it goes ground, I think the Zerg probably will have a bit of an advantage, the center of the map being quite open. I think if it goes air, you know, Protoss air in general is stronger with shuttles and Corsair, especially the Corsair Reaver combination. But you know, being that these players are a little bit more old school, we could be seeing some alternative strategies, certainly. Looks like we got a 12 hatch here. My timestamp says about 7:20, and now 7:23. So hopefully that's about right.
Yeah, we're fully in sync. We're pretty much in sync there. But yeah, you know, Outsider is starting to become a fairly Zerg-dominated map, because the 12 hatchery build is so strong on this map, and really, I mean, to be honest, the only counters I see to it are really rush builds from both Terran and Protoss, because it's just so, I mean, the strength of Zerg is the swarm, their ability to grow at an incredible rate, at an exponential rate, and to multiply, and that's what the Zerg, the whole philosophy of the Zerg race is. And Outsider is a map that is designed to favor that, because you can just defend one, which is your natural expo, and if you defend your natural expo, you can pretty much grow as much as you want, and the only way someone can get to you is actually try and get to you by the air. And if you can try and then control the airspace, that makes you pretty much invulnerable as a Zerg player, because no one can grow as fast as you. And you know, I think it's one of those maps that you're gonna see some interesting strategies come out from Terran and Protoss players against Zerg players. But I do feel that this is starting to become a Zerg-dominated map with the ease of securing that 4 gas. And whenever we've seen historically maps where Zerg players can get 3 gas quickly and defend them, Zerg players tend to do very well on them.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the maps where Protoss does the best against Zerg, of course, were ones like Harang Do, where you only had you had no gas, in fact, in the natural expansion, where Protosses were quite good against Zerg on that map specifically because of that reason. Anyway, we're seeing kind of an odd build here from NC Yellow. We've got ourselves an early gas and a 2 hatchery into a lair build, so this is definitely a rush build of some sort, or at least it's looking like a rush build. Certainly, NC Yellow could switch it back into some kind of standardized build, but it's not going to most likely. It's probably just going to be a rush build of some sort, and we're going to have to find out what it is. Anytime knows it's coming, though, so I got to think that Anytime, being, you know, a pretty darn good player, at least historically, is going to know something's up. He's going to think about all the possibilities, 2-hatch Mutalisks, some kind of lurker game, some kind of drop game, a lot of possibilities. Maybe a drop, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, considering that NC Yellow did it so effectively against Bisu, the lurker drop strategy, or really it was a Hydra lurker drop, and it worked out spectacularly, so maybe that's could be a possibility.
Yeah, I don't think he can go for the drop now because the whole point of the drop is that you have to catch the Protoss by surprise. Otherwise,
Yeah,
of course,
maybe.
he'll intercept your overlords and you will never be able to drop. Besides, he doesn't have the overlords in position. He only has one overlord near. And it looks like he's actually taken his 3rd hatchery.
True.
So he's taken that hatchery just north of his base at the 11 o'clock position. So I don't think we're going to be seeing a drop from him. Although maybe he was going for something, but I think he's probably changed up his mind.
We saw
Or
a
maybe,
Spire too.
you know, he. Right, exactly. You know, so he might just have wanted to get kind of that Spire up quickly with the 2-hatch mutas to keep the pressure on his opponent while getting that economy up, which is slightly more conservative than we've been seeing from some Zergs doing, just going straight for kind of the triple hatchery build right off the bat. You know, which obviously when it works gives you a huge economic advantage. But actually I like this build because, as I said, one of the key things is air superiority on a map like this. So if you can kind of prevent your opponent from kind of getting that and getting, I think, an early Spire out and Mutalisk and Scourge and all that can probably probably help in that.
Yeah, definitely. Looks like we got a couple of Zealots out for Anytime. Anytime and NC Yellow have obviously been around for a long time. They're now on the same team. I mean, Anytime has been on a couple of different teams. Most recently, I believe he was on CJ, or is it Lake Half? I think it was CJ. Yeah, pretty sure it was one of the two. But anyway,
I believe.
he was on Lake Half. Okay, sorry. Maybe before that he was on CJ. But anyway, obviously they do play together a good amount, so we'll see what the strategies are. Anytime, obviously not trying to repeat his humiliation of NC Yellow. Definitely a fun game to watch, though, back in the day. I mean, man, all DTs. I love that game. But he's not going to do much with these Zealots. There's a sunken colony in front for NC Yellow. And, you know, the thing is, NC Yellow is trying now. That's the amazing thing. You know, a lot of people thought NC Yellow was just gone from StarCraft, that, you know, he was just too busy being, you know, ladies' man and kind of a playboy, and, like, he was just playing terribly. But, I mean, he is actually claiming that he's been practicing a lot now that he's in the military, and that's kind of an interesting position to be put in. Like, you go to the military and then you play lots of StarCraft, try to get good again. But evidently this is possible. And he has played a lot better. I mean, I certainly don't think he could have beaten Bisu in his state like a year ago, you know, when he was just, looked like a joke, kind of, like a funny joke, you know, but still, just an old, like, kind of relic. But now he's actually showing some moves here. It looks like he's going to sandwich the Scourge here. Nice work by NC Yellow.
Yeah, I've said this before. I really feel that the Air Force Ace team is such a boon for Pro StarCraft and for a lot of these old timers. I feel that it really is kind of a swan song and a second win for a lot of these players, because the problem is that when they're in their main pro teams, the level of competition is so high and there's so many motivated youngsters playing that the amount of practice and work they would have to do and the level they would have to get at to be able to play is just so much that I think it just demotivates them. And it looks like Anytime doing something interesting here, setting 3 Zealots and a probe up to the 12 o'clock main. I'm not sure whether he's going to try something tricky or whether he's going to try and take an expansion there, and that's why he's setting those Zealots in just to defend that probe. Looks like he's circling around towards the min only there, and maybe he's going to try and do something crazier. I'm not sure exactly what he's up to. Is he going to try and... Yeah, it looks like Yellow putting... Yeah, he might be trying to do something like that. Yellow putting a creep calling down. So Yellow's anticipating this. He's seen the Zergling, so I think he knows that Anytime's going to try and push those Zealots through the mineral wall, and that's why he's going to get that sunken down. I'm not sure if those 3 Zealots are going to be enough, and if Anytime can get them through in time. Obviously, he's not in a position to put a drop in, but yeah, it looks like he's going to try and sneak those Zealots through with that probe, and he's not really able to do it. I think this is the kind of thing, if you're going to go for this, you have to do it straight away. But Yellow was smart enough to have a Zergling position on that ramp, which is why he saw this coming. And yeah, I think that that gambit is going to fail anyway from any time.
Yeah, not much harm done unless Yellow manages to do some pressure right now, but it doesn't really matter. The results at this point is becoming less important. NCL has a ton of gas, by the way, as I'm sure you guys have seen. He has the double gas now at the top. This is a total of 5 gas should he choose to take it, so he could be producing massive amounts of late game units. On the other hand, he is a bit stretched out at 4 bases right now. And this is really the time for any time, I think, to go for some sort of harassment or some sort of attack, even possibly. I mean, right now he's been sitting back a lot. I don't know if that's a great idea, especially because he hasn't kept up the Scourge count. I'm sorry, the Corsair count due to the Scourge. I mean, oh man, another Corsair picked off by NC Yellow, who's doing a great job. I mean, that's Jadong style right there, picking off Corsairs. But no, there are a lot more left inside of Anytime's base. That one's just for scouting purposes. He's got himself a second Stargate, so he definitely has actually the anti-air necessary to fend off Mutalisks. And really, Yellow has to be really careful here. He could lose a ton of Mutalisks to those Corsairs and to the Archon. Looks like he's going to go in and see the bad news, I guess. He does have only 2 Scourge. They're taken down. 5 Corsairs versus maybe 9 Mutalisks. The Corsairs are definitely going to do more damage here, and I think Yellow's going to be forced to retreat.
Yeah, Yellow ushered away, and I think that, you know, that's going to be the key going forward. Protoss versus Zerg on Outsider is you have to, as a Protoss player, I think, fight for air control, air superiority, and if you can get and maintain air superiority, then you can drop those DTs into those gas expansions or even High Templar, get them in there and drop them, because that's the only way you're going to be able to prevent the Zerg's economy from snowballing. You have to get air superiority and harass the Zerg, and that's why I'm such a huge fan of Reaver Serre. I think that could be a really good strategy on this build, because Reaver Serre is perfectly designed, I feel, to counter, and we've got +1 air attack upgrade on Corsairs for Anytime, so you can see that he doesn't want Yellow to give Yellow air superiority. Yellow with a ton of Scourges though coming in. Most of those Scourges get taken out before they land a hit of the Corsairs. I think he lost 1 Corsair there. He's down to about 5 now, but Yellow is not going to let Anytime just take over the air superiority. It looks like he's fighting back for his continue to produce Mutalisks and Scourges, and he's got the gas to be able to do that. But I feel that Reaver Serre is a good build for this kind of map for Protoss, because Reaver Serre does so well against Zerg players who kind of overexpand early, because Reaver Serre kicks in before the Zerg player can really get that army up. And if you can, I think 2 Stargate Reaver Serre is something that I would really like players to try and do on this map.
Well, this game certainly is not going to happen because of the timing here. He's gone for Templar, but yeah, I agree with you. Theoretically, it is a good build. There's a lot of Scourge. Oh my God, NCL chasing with about like 20 Scourge at least. He has to be very, very quick though in terms of cloning them onto the Corsairs, trying to get them individually. Otherwise, he's going to lose these big air battles, and that could cost him the game. Looks like he goes in, picks off maybe 3 Corsairs, but I don't know if that was enough there. I think there's still way too many Corsairs, and he loses his upper right attempt at expanding and picking up a 5th. So Anytime sort of clipping at the wings here of NC Yellow, trying to prevent him from flying away with this game, metaphorically speaking. And there's a ton of sunken colonies up in front for NC Yellow. Man, he's just basically going straight to Hive here. He wants to get the Ultralisks, the Defilers out, all sorts of just high-tech unit. And you know, basically both players have really skimped on ground units, as you can see. Neither player has really much of a ground army. It's been a big air battle, and we are seeing the general trend in this map, which is the superiority for the air being the main issue. But soon there's going to be a pretty powerful ground force from Yellow with his 5 gas. I mean, I think Anytime has reason to be worried, and he's actually getting harassed right now at this new base, interesting enough.
Yeah, that base is absolutely critical at the 3 o'clock base, because those 2 gas are what Anytime needs to be able to stay competitive with Yellow. And Anytime has got the Nexus up, but Yellow's got so many Scourges shielding his Mutalisks, and he's built up a good amount of Mutalisks. Again, and Yellow's doing some pretty decent micro there. He's moving those Scourges in and out, not wasting them. And Anytime comes in with the Corsairs, and now it looks like Yellow going in with the Corsairs, and with all the Scourges coming in, he lands a lot of Scourge hits. And meanwhile, using those Scourges as a screen, he's taken that Nexus down, so he's stopping Anytime from getting that 3 o'clock expansion with the double gas. And that is absolutely critical, because Anytime needs that gas desperately to keep in touch with Yellow. The problem for Anytime is he can have a big ground army, but it's not going to go anywhere because Yellow's got so many Sunkens, and Yellow can just put a couple of Lurkers in there in between that and make it pretty much impenetrable for a Protoss. And again, it comes down to the Protoss being able to control the airspace and get some drops going, but that's just not the build that Anytime has got, and he's trying to control the airspace, but Yellow is not allowing them to have it. He's continuing to produce Scourge, and it's just, I just feel that like Zerg, if played properly on this map, is virtually unbeatable by Protoss. unless the Protoss does something crazy, or unless Zerg makes a stupid mistake. I think a high-level Zerg player is going to be really hard to beat an outsider by Protoss and even by Terran. And Yellow is with that gas now is getting that greater Spire as well.
Wow.
So you know, I feel that Yellow's ahead right now, definitely. Anytime, despite having a good number, is in a difficult position.
Yeah, but that Greater Spire, man, that is so difficult of a strategy to actually get to work. He's probably going to try to eventually go for some Guardians with some Devourers, of course, to help with the Air Force. But man, he is going serious air. I thought he'd be going for some fast ground units and, you know, crackling Ultra Army, but he's going to go for Guards and Devourers. I mean, this is a strategy that often fails, basically, and often has actually sunk Zerg players who are ahead in the game. They go from ahead to behind because it's just a very hard unit composition to control properly. Your Guardians are so freaking slow. Your Devourers are useless against ground units. And, you know, the Protoss has several options. Cynox Storm is very good against the Guardians also. And, you know, it's a very difficult build. We'll see if, though, I mean, NC Yellow presumably has practiced this. He's also doing a good job keeping the Corsair count relatively low. Sorry about that. He has +2 armor for his air units, by the way. That's really important because that's why he's been able to go toe-to-toe against these Corsairs. Otherwise, these units would just be melting against them. But, you know, once he gets some Devourers out, the air threat should be gone. The question remains, though, whether what's his name? Anytime Gnosis is coming. And here is the Ultra Den and the Defiler's Mount. So he is going to go for the combination, too. I guess just with some Devourers is my guess. Devourers plus those high gas ground units.
Yeah, he doesn't want to seed. He doesn't want to make a full-on switch to ground and just seed air superiority anytime, because that'll allow anytime to control the airspace and control the base. Anytime finally looks like he's got that expansion.
Oh, good Storm.
3 o'clock position. Yeah, decent Storm catching some Mutalisk. Anytime's finally got that expansion up at the 3 o'clock position, as well as the expansion at the 1 o'clock position, so he's definitely getting a foothold in this game. Yellow looks like he's now heading towards that expansion at the 3 o'clock position, and that's, as I said, that's the key expansion. Yellow really doesn't want to cede that to Anytime. He's got his Mutalisk in a good place, and Anytime, again, primarily has a ground force. He's just shuttling some probes up. He's got those Corsairs in there, but they're not going to be as strong, and now looks like Yellow is morphing all of those Mutalisks, and he's morphing them just above that 3 o'clock expansion. Anytime hasn't scouted this, he's not aware of it, so Yellow will be able to deliver a surprise attack. Meanwhile, Yellow's getting a decent-sized ground force up as well. He's got those Cracklings up, he's got a couple of Defilers up, and again, it's just a luxury when a Zerg has so much gas. I mean, he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and pretty soon 6, 7 gas. So that's just completely insane. And yeah, half Devourers, half Guardians, and you know, I think Anytime is going to struggle here. And it looks like now Yellow's finally ready. He's actually killing his own Sunkens there, which could leave him a little bit vulnerable if Anytime attacks at the right moment, because he doesn't have any lurkers, and he's only got about 5 Sunkens there. But yeah, you know, Anytime, I feel Anytime has not put enough pressure on Yellow. Yellow's been the one putting the pressure on, and you can see the Corsairs are not able to get in range of the Guardians. He needs to have, and the other thing he doesn't seem to have built is a shuttle. I think a shuttle would have been really handy, but I guess he was just afraid of Scourges, because he would need a shuttle to get his High Templar in there to be able to get those storms off.
Well, I think this has been a very smart play by Yellow, and once again showing that he's still very much with the game. Oh, here comes a Storm, though, possibly, but it looks like the High Templar has gotten 0 kills. It's not storming for some reason, and NCL is going to like build a Sunken colony right next to it. Doesn't make any sense at all. Maybe just didn't have energy or something. I know Storm's researched, obviously, because we've seen one before. Oh, there it is. Boom. 5 kills there on the HT, and it gets taken out now. But yeah, you're right. I think some more Storm drops would have been a good harassment. I think NCL went very smartly into early Spire, and look at those ultra crackling combination here. Wow. I think that early 2-hatch Spire was actually very smart, because he contested the air right from the beginning. He knew Anytime would go for an air build, this being the map it is, and Yellow has you know, preempted it, and you know, he managed to basically keep the air back, and now Anytime is in big trouble here. He has not been able to curtail the Zerg economy. He has lost his base, in fact, at the 2:30, 3 o'clock position. Now here comes the attack from Yellow on the ground forces.
Yeah, Yellow with masses of Zerglings, and he's actually got so many units that his Ultralisk can't get out of his base. He's lost a bunch of Cracklings in the process, just to Storms and Zealots, but that's not going to bother him too much. But again, Yellow has consistently attacked and killed that 3 o'clock base, which was absolutely key for the Protoss, that double gas base, and he has not allowed the Protoss player to get that double gas, and those Guardians have been so effective. And again, I don't see why Anytime isn't storming these Guardians. He should have been able to get at least a couple of storms off. Now finally the storm
just as you say that,
but
finally.
Yeah, finally the storm comes in. But I think, yeah, think he should have been storming earlier. And you know, again, the key is that when a Zerg player goes for this sort of build and starts controlling expansions, the only thing your opponent can do is try and get drops off, because you cannot push them on the ground because they've just got so many Sunkets. And now Yellow is just overwhelming anytime on the ground with masses of Ultralisks and Lings, and anytime just doesn't have the ground forces he needs to be able to compete, and he's going to really struggle here, especially if there's a couple of Defilers in the mix. And there's a Defiler. Swarm goes up, and yeah, Swarm goes up. There's a Storm from anytime, but Yellow's just got too many units there, and the Ultralisks are not going to be too much bothered despite the storming. And now the Devourers coming as well. I think the Devourers, they might just be there to maybe absorb hits or something, because I don't see the Corsairs there, I don't see why he would need to bring his Devourers there. It's almost like he's trying to free up Sai or something by getting those Devourers killed, and because he's switching completely to a ground-based force. Meanwhile, another attack going off at Anytime's front Natural Expo. Ultras and Lurker seeking it. This is Sauron Zerg pretty much from Yellow, just masses and masses of units, because now he's just got such an economy that he can just basically continue to make everything from his larvae and just send them and send them and send them. And anytime, despite having decent ground units and decent composition, he's just barely holding onto his expansion at the 1 o'clock position, that he doesn't have enough to defend his front. And he's got about 3 Reavers there that have just popped out.
Where did those come from?
But meanwhile, yeah, I don't know the way they appear from. They just like, there's no way he could have built 3 Reavers that quickly, because they weren't there like 60 seconds ago.
Yeah.
But it looks like he's going to lose his Natural Expo. There are no minerals there, but I mean, I don't think he's got too many minerals or resources left there. But you still don't want to lose that Expo.
Yeah, of course, that's your front door. He's also lost lots of pylons. He's going to lose robotics facility now. I think the game is pretty much in NCL's hands, and it's certainly a well-played Zerg game here on this map. We're seeing, you know, Anytime trying his best to kill off some Overlords, stem the tide a bit with some DTs. He's got 2 DTs whacking away. But look at his main base. It's already completely opened up now, despite what a couple of DTs can do, which is, you know, a lot of damage. But, you know, really, right now, the game looks pretty much lost here. A lot of, wow, look at that sacrificial storm there. Good storm on the Lings, tons of kills on the DTs, but I mean, look at this. Lings all over the main base. The Templar Archives could go down very soon. Doesn't even matter how many DTs there are, really. There's going to be enough coming out, and of course, NCL has, you know, not been touched at all this entire game. Really, this has been a very, very good offensive game for the Zerg player, we should mention. And Anytime, I think, for whatever reasons, played very passively this entire game, and you know, that really cost him, I think.
Well, it's a bit like what we've been seeing from Jaedong recently, where Jaedong versus Protoss players. I think you and I did a dual commentary, Jaedong versus Cal, where Jaedong put out, where Jaedong basically kept his opponent's Corsair count low from early on. Therefore, you know, his opponent, and that's what happened to Anytime. Anytime going to run into massive Scourges and more Devourers produced by Yellow as well. But yeah, Anytime just spent a lot of his resources early on just trying to mass Corsairs. But unfortunately, despite investing so heavily on these Corsairs, he wasn't able to gain air superiority on the map. And ultimately, you know, when you invest that much and don't get anything out of it, that's going to cost you the game. And these are just desperation maneuvers from Anytime now, trying to pick off some Overlords, but he's just getting completely wiped the floor with. But you know, we were talking earlier about the whole thing with players joining Air Force and getting a second wind, and I think I think again it's down to the fact that in their own teams they would have to practice so much that it just seems like such an impossible goal to achieve that they all actually give up. Whereas in the Air Force, it's much easier for these guys to play and to actually get on the team, because there's less players and because the Air Force only allows players who are in the Air Force to play. And I think it actually has an effect. The fact that these guys actually get games allows them to practice a little bit more than, say, they would be, because they actually have some concrete motivation to do it. And I think that's why you see a lot of these guys return to form, because these guys are very, very skilled players, and you know, all they need is a little bit of a motivation. And to be honest, I have to, if I'm perfectly honest, out of all the veterans, Boxer is the only one I feel who has really made a dedicated effort to practice and get his game up back to as well as he can get it. And that's why you're seeing him start to produce the kind of results that he's producing and play the kind of way he is playing. Although, you know, he hasn't really taken any games against a lot of active players, but I can totally see him potentially doing really well next season. I guess we'll wait to see whether he can or he can't. But he's one of the few players. And it looks like Yellow's going for a massive drop here at that 1 o'clock Expo, where Anytime is basically now, that's his only surviving base left. But yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that at some stage, Colorado.
Yeah, I mean, I think well, you have to give credit to players like NC Yellow, you know, Reach, of course, the Mantos, also been there since 2001. I'd say anyone from like prior to like 2003 who's still alive and kicking, still managing to keep a, you know, a decent record and a decent number of games, maybe not 50%, 100%, but, you know, certainly close to it, it is still just very impressive to me. It looks like we're going to see possibly the end here coming up. So many ultras and a big drop on the remaining base. Those Reavers would have been very helpful about 10 minutes ago, defending all those bases. The Reavers are just the only thing that works well against this Dark Swarm combo, but yeah, it's just way too late here. I mean, they're going to be microed well, although without shuttles. I mean, they can kill a lot of stuff where they stand, but eventually there'll just be more coming up. And looks like the Nexus is about to go down also. Another possibly a huge drop again with tons of Overlords there. NC Yellow certainly showing his mastery. This is GG coming from Anytime, showing his mastery of the mid and late game. Surprisingly, you know, we think of NC Yellow, at least prior to his sort of mini renaissance here, as a low econ player. I would still say he is compared to, you know, some of the more modern Zergs, but he's certainly shown that he can play a big game here. You know, obviously against a player like Bisu, he chose to go for a rush, but here against Anytime, he went for a fairly standard opening, a little bit with some variations, but it wasn't a rush opening by any means, and he still manages to pull a win, which I'd say is impressive too, because you know, just being able to do a couple of rush builds, not enough to be a real rounded player again. And yeah, I'd say, you know, any player from back then, and let's not forget Nada, let's not forget let me think. I Love Uv, well, I mean, I Love Uv, I would say, is one of the retirees. He's been trying to come back, but actually injured himself or collapsed or something like that trying to practice, so unfortunately he hasn't been able to. But yeah, like a lot of players have retired. I'd count him as possibly a retiree. And now Raw, of course. I mean, other greats from that time, Kingdom, Into the Rain, Rainbow or whatever, Into the Rain, right? And yeah, all those other players, I mean, most of them are gone, so it's good to see these greats still alive and playing.
Absolutely.
All right, well, it looks like we're going to be done with this commentary. This was played on July 20th, 2009, and with that, Cholera and Clazzard signing off. Thanks for watching.